Hello, I'm Louie Gohmert, U.S. Congressman from the 1st District of Texas. Today is such a special day, one of national contemplation and prayer to the one true God. First established in 1775, when the Continental Congress asked the colonies to pray for wisdom in forming this country. The call to prayer has continued throughout our history. In fact, this day was created for the purpose of humbly coming before God, seeking His guidance for the leaders of this country and His grace upon us as a people. Troubling times are upon us as a country, times in which we are witnessing religious liberties being stripped away from us as each day passes. As a Christian, this grieves me to my soul, knowing full well that our nation was established by people who knew there was a master designer, a creator, from whom our blessings flowed. They recognized divine authority and realized that they needed to call upon Him for assistance and guidance. As Benjamin Franklin said before the Constitutional Convention in 1787, how do we know? Because he wrote it down in his own handwriting and gave a copy. He said this: "In the beginning contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for the divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard. They were graciously answered. All of us who are engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of a superintending providence in our favor. To that kind providence we owe this happy opportunity of consulting in peace on the means of establishing our future national felicity. And have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Or do we imagine that we no longer need His assistance?" Franklin went on. He said, "I have lived, sir, a long time." He was 80 years old. And he said, "The longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth. God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without His notice, is it probable that an empire could rise without His aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this. I also firmly believe that without His concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel." Some of us were taught that he was a deist. Clearly, his words are not the words of a deist. Look, this country has been richly blessed due to the prayers and efforts of those foundational men and women who made sure they used God's blueprint for a proper support structure on which to build the greatest nation in the history of the world. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan's first National Day of Prayer address made note that prayer is our, quote, source of strength, unquote. He writes, and this is his quote, "Prayer is today as powerful a force in our nation as it has ever been. We as a nation should never forget this source of strength. And while recognizing that the freedom to choose a godly path is the essence of liberty, as a nation we cannot but hope that more of our citizens would, through prayer, come into a closer relationship with their Maker." That was Reagan. It's now my prayer that we all join together today and truly beseech Almighty God for His direction and His wisdom. As James 4:8 states, "Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you." And let us never forget that we have not because we either ask not or we fail to ask the true source of our blessings, who really loves us. In 1787, after about 5 weeks of yelling and accomplishing nothing, the Constitutional Convention voted to recess and reconvene in a local Philadelphia church where they would all worship together on our nation's birthday and then come back and work on a constitution after that. Well, it worked. They recessed and convened on July 4th, 1787 at the Reformed Calvinistic Church, where the Reverend William Rogers prayed that God would, and this is a quote from him, "favor them from day to day with Thy inspiring presence, be their wisdom and strength, enable them to devise such measures as may prove happy instruments in healing all the divisions and prove the good of the great whole." Unquote. Well, that prayer worked. God heard and He granted that request. They came back together. They still had disagreements, but not like the first 5 weeks. They were able to come together in one spirit and create the greatest governing document ever created in human history. That's our U.S. Constitution. So isn't it time our nation asks for that same healing again and an end to the persecution of Christians in America for their Christian biblical-based beliefs? I know you believe it is time, or you would not be here at this time. So may God bless anew these United States of America with His glory, by His glory, and for His glory. And thank you for caring and for sharing.